Joining us today is Dr Yvonne McMaster. Yvonne's been working in palliative care for most of her career and has helped hundreds of families journey through what might be called the final days of a loved one and to deal with grief. In 2014, Yvonne was awarded an Order of Australia Medal and since retiring has been a tireless advocate to improve the quality of palliative care services, especially in rural and regional areas. Welcome, Yvonne. It's good to have you.
Thank you very much.
Look, as I mentioned earlier, you've really been a doctor who specialised in this area, but you weren't at first. You were the local GP going about some of that, what must be said to be the nicer end, working with families and helping them. What made you get into this area?
Well, it was really by chance in many ways. I was invited to become a doctor, a visiting doctor at the local hospice, which I'd had some experience of in my younger days. I'd worked there as a nurse very briefly, and so I had an attraction to it. And at once I saw that it was something where you could get close to people and you can help them. You can help them emotionally. And then I learned, I was very fortunate that the following year there was an international association, the very first International Association for the Management of Pain, conference in Florence. Who wouldn't go to Florence for a conference? And so my husband and I went, and there I met some people from St Christopher's Hospice, a famous hospice in England, the very first really, where new methods of pain control were being tried.
Look, Cicely Saunders and people like her really had to fight a very hard battle at first because many people don't seem to see this as being a priority in health budgets. And would you say that we face that same challenge in Australia?
We still do. There are so many battles that Cicely and subsequently I fought back in the 1970s that are still going on. It's extraordinary.
And it's a tough area of medicine, you could say, in the sense that it's not always recognised as being a priority. How do you keep yourself buoyant and still when you're working in this area?
It's really not tough. It's wonderful. It is absolutely wonderful. It's so wonderful when somebody comes to see you or you go to see them and they've had pain for months and months. And you can say to them, I'll get your pain right. And within a couple of days, it's gone. And that's one of the most satisfying things that you can possibly do.
So in fact, you're actually able to do something constructive and positive that they actually feel as well as up here. They actually feel it in their body. Nobody
can really live a decent life if they're in constant pain, especially if they already know they've got cancer, for instance, and they're going to die somewhere down the track, and that's all they're looking forward to for the rest of their lives is pain. So that was really what hooked me into palliative care.
Now, a bit of the politics of this is you work in rural and regional areas. Is it harder there than it is in the city?
It's incomparably harder. It's extraordinary. It's so neglected. It really has been neglected for years. I mean, palliative care generally here in Australia has been underfunded for decades. Now with our current government in New South Wales, there's some recognition, but in rural and regional New South Wales, it's still nowhere near enough.
And there's no reason to believe that the story's any different across Australia because the same challenges are there.
Very much so.
Look, as a Christian involved in medicine, how do you understand your faith in this kind of area?
Look, for years I saw people die, for years, and I was beside them. And I had a bit of a sense of they were going somewhere, that there was something afterwards, but not a very solid one. And then when I really walked with them through this period of their lives, and I heard that story where you see the track in the snow, the tracks in the snow, and at one point, at one point the tracks go down to just one, and the person says, "Oh, well, why was that?" And the Lord says, "That was when I was carrying you." And it's that sort of sense that when pain is bad or suffering is bad or the emotional situation or the spiritual situation is bad, is that I'm able to do that thing I walk with people through this period of their lives that's really scary, really frightening, sometimes really horrible. The thought of losing all the people, everything, your life, everyone that you love, that's a really great thing to be able to do. But that's how I feel my faith.
And it's as much for the family as it is for the person, isn't it?
Sometimes very much more. Sometimes much more for the family.
I mean, I can remember as a young minister the story everybody kind of tells, because it happens so often, where you would go to visit a couple where shall we say, the husband is dying and he's in the bedroom,
Yes.
and she would tell you, you know, he's dying, you know, but we're not talking about it. Yes. And you'd visit him and he would say to you, I'm dying, but we're not talking
Exactly
about it.
right.
And he said, come on, can we go in a room here where we all talk about
that's
it?
right.
I think that realism is so important
Yes,
to healing, isn't it?
It is. It really is. It's wonderful when you can get people talking about it.
And now, even though you might be said to be retired in inverted commas, it's advocacy now for you.
It really is. And this is a whole new life for me, not something I expected at all, but one I'm loving, really.
Well, let's hope people are listening, because it's so important, this whole area of palliative care and the commitment as a community. Yvonne, your work tirelessly is to improve the situation, the conditions of people and the resourcing. What's the one thing we can all do to help improve the standard of palliative care offered to people in need?
Please talk about it. Talk to each other. Talk to everyone you know. Talk to your local members. Talk to your local paper. Please let everybody know of the great need for more palliative care availability throughout Australia.
Thank you. So you know what to do. We've got to respond and be ready to take this subject up, to take it up, because the future of Australia depends on it. Thank you for joining us today, and see you next week. May the Lord be with you and God bless you in the coming days.